So Luca Bongiorni. Luca Bongiorni is working as director of the ZTE Cybersecurity Lab in Rome and is founder of RomHack in Disguise, a cybersecurity boutique focused on R&D offensive hardware implants and industrial IoT security. At the moment, he's focusing his researches on bypassing biometric access control system and other Internet of Offensive Things. His talk is HandPwning. Your hand is your passport. Verify me, now let me in. Okay, Luca.
Hello. Does it work? Okay, so hello everyone. So first of all, before starting, I would like to thank the guys from RomHack and the guys... Oh, sì, sorry. And thank also the organization of... wait a second. Ok, facciamo così. Ok, ce l'abbiamo. It works? No? Wait, no. Duplicate. Perché se faccio così... Fai duplicate...
Metti PC only.
PC screen only? No, extend. Va? Perché va? Aspetta. Ok. No, ma io sono italiano. Adesso va? No. Porca.
Inverti modalità relativo.
Ah, qua siamo in Italia, non posso bestemmiare, giusto?
Se no, guarda, mi fai così come raggiungi.
Aspetta, no, cioè, dove cazzo? Primary monitor. Ok, guarda. Ah, guarda, tiro via la presenter view. Tac. Oh, là. Ce l'abbiamo fatta. So, I was saying, before starting and before other glitches will appear, I would like to thank the organization of RomHack staff and the Saiyan organization. So, thank you guys to bring us once again this year here. So, let's start. So, thanks, Carola, for the introduction, so I will skip that. Just saying that during the day I'm a corporate person and in the night I'm creating troubles. So, and disclaimer, this will protect my ass in the future. This research is the outcome of a private research that was done in my private time, and not the current, not the previous employer or clients were involved. That's it. So, let's see, just give me a second. Okay, here. So, first of all, who of you recognize one of these scenes from some famous movies? They are all dealing with bypassing physical access control systems. Biometric based. So you can see there are some, voices and iris, hands, fingerprints recognition, and physical access control systems. So as you can see, I'm quite a fan of these kind of systems. So in the past, I was analyzing already biometric system, fingerprint based. I found some vulnerabilities in some, and others, of course, confirmed to be quite reliable. So I was pleased to see that there are some that are not that insecure. On the other side, some of them were a bit more insecure, but that's another story. So this is what we will talk today, about physical access control system and biometrics. First, a brief overview of the technology behind biometrics physical access control systems. So as you can see here, there are different types of sensors that can space from the usual fingerprints that most of us are already used to iris scanners, retinal scanners, voice ones, facial recognition nowadays is becoming more and more used in different sectors. So these are pretty much all the types of biometric system you can find in the market nowadays. Recently, I was visiting, so how it started this research is because I was visiting a factory, an industrial plant in Europe, and eventually I figured out that they were using a very strange physical access control system, biometric-based reader controller, reader connected to a controller, which was hand-based. We will see in the next slide. So the idea is that there are mainly two types of biometric system that use hands as medium to identify, authenticate and authorize a specific person, because hand plus or minus has some specific minutias are called in biometrics, so specific features or points of the hand itself that can be used to identify uniquely or almost identify uniquely, and we will see later why I say that, a human hand. There are mainly two types, so hand geometry and hand vein technology. Today we will we'll go dig deep into the hand geometry technology, which is kind of old technology, but still nowadays quite used through these kind of devices. So how it works, the hand geometry biometric process per se. So the idea is that we have the target, the person, the hand of the person, and through a camera, we will capture, or actually the device itself called handpunch, will capture the silhouette of the image of the hand from the top and on the sides in a way that will gather different measures of the hand. So actually once the image is captured, is taking in account 31,000 points during the analysis, and 90 measurements are taken. So like the length of all single parts of a hand or fingers, and then put all together to get a hash, like the classic hashing systems. In this case, this unique hash that each hand should have a specific hash, so my hand should be different. The hash of my hand will be different from the hash of someone else, and remember this because we will mention later on, so this is the so-called hand template, which is around 9 bytes of data. This is a unique hash. Of course, we can discuss, if there are some guys here that likes math and cryptography, 9 bytes for a unique hash is quite, maybe not enough, but yeah, let's say that this is the standard for this kind of technology. How to achieve that? Well, you insert your hand. Well, you need a supervisor or super admin of this device, the hand punch. We'll see in the next slides. He has admin access to this reader, so he logs in as admin, and then start to configure a new user. Once a new user is created, it asks the new user to place the hand 3 times to record, capture the image of the hand, calculate the hash, and if the 3 images match with a certain range, the hash itself, so it matched, the reader understands that the 3 hands are the same, then we'll generate the hand template, this 9 bytes hash. Which are the industry's applications? Well, there are different. I've gathered enough evidences through OSINT that they are used in different industries, healthcare, industrial sites, chemical plants, food manufacturing, airports. Specifically for airports, recently, in the last few years, they removed them for security reasons, and now I understand why. And you will see soon why as well. But as you can see here, for example, that's a tweet from Twitter where this company, which is a chemical plant, was definitely advertising that they just installed that. So we will see that it is not the best idea you should do in your company. Luckily for us, in Italy and in Europe, this product was marketed for English-speaking markets. United States mostly, Ireland, England, Australia, New Zealand, those. So in Italy, we are not impacted so far. That, as far as I know, from exposed devices of this kind to internet. We will go there at the end of the speech. But anyway, so ladies and gentlemen, this is the target. This is called handpunch. Handpunch is a line of different products, different models using the same technology, the hand geometry biometric system. And as you can see from the price, it's still not very cheap. That's why one of the reasons that is not so spread around, but is mostly used in limited environment. Actually, the application, why it was created one of the questions I had when I saw that in that factory I was visiting was, why do you have this? I've never seen before. Why? What's the application? And the guy replied me, because some of our workers are working on the production lines dealing with chemical agents or dealing with grease. So mechanics, imagine a mechanic. the hands are dirty. So they will never be able to use a fingerprint reader there. In such a situation, when they have like latex gloves or grease on the hands, it's impractical to use fingerprint access control system because it will always, 99% of the times, will deny the users to enter, to be authenticated and authorized. So they need something secure enough to have a unique hash for each end of the users, but not that strong enough or strict enough as a secure fingerprint reader. So this is a good ground. It was, at least. So first vulnerability. So the approach I followed here was like a full review from different point of views, like physical security, network security. At a certain point, I gave up even with hardware security because it was kind of pointless to prove that there are hardware security issues because we will see that it was broken at different levels. So I started with physical security, which is one of my, say, favorite hobbies. The first thing you noticed is that there is, so the two, 3 models I bought for my research were both used, because for obvious reason, I was not going to spend $6,000 for 3 of these devices. So I bought used. It was still kind of expensive, but acceptably expensive. But they arrived used. So they were just disassembled from, dismounted from contractors and didn't have the key. So there I had 2 options. The first option was to pick it with a tubular, because that kind of lock is called tubular lock. It's quite easy to pick, but you need, if you don't want to go hardcore, you just need the proper pick, like that one. So it's a cylinder with some pins, and it's doing a technique called impressioning, but that's, again, another story. We'll be left for the next RomHack camp workshops. So the second option was start to look for some keys. Usually when there are, even if you use these kind of devices, you have a serial number. So each model, each device of that model has a serial number. So just call the manufacturer and say, oh, okay, I have this device, I lost the key, this is my serial number, can you make a key exactly for my device? This was not the case. I didn't need that because on eBay, I managed to find a key that looks like it is a master key. And not just for that model, but for all the products of these types from this vendor. So as soon as you spend $10 bucks, $6 of master key, you can literally open all of them. This is the first failure. But physical security, many people, as the manufacturer asked me while I was doing responsible disclosure, said, well, that's not a big deal, it's lower risk than others because you need physical access. I agree with that, so let it be. But in my case, was already the major problem. Having a master key for everything is bad. Second thing, there is a lack of anti-tamper switch and alarm. So if we look from the perspective of other corporate physical industrial control, physical access control systems, each reader, each sensor, each controller has an anti-tamper switch. What it is, very simple. As soon as you tamper, you open the device, a switch is flipped. So it's turned, it opens and triggers an alarm on the other side of the corporate building. So in theory, if it's configured properly, a classic physical access control system, if you try to open the reader from outside the building, or if you go in Ciampino or Fiumicino Airport, they have the same kind of systems, they have an anti-tamper switch. As you try to tamper it, it will trigger an alarm. So eventually, security guard will arrive. In this case, if you look around these hand punches, they do not have an anti-tamper, which makes even more critical the fact that they use a master key. Because now, with the master key, you just can open potentially all of them, and no alarm is triggered. So this is another problem that they had, and I made it clear to the manufacturer. So now that we got it open, imagine that this sensor, this controller, is outside a secured area. So anyone, a threat actor, can access it. It opens with the master key. What it can do? Well, it can do 2 things. First thing, it can reset by pressing the reset button. For like a few seconds, it can reset the entire controller, so denial of service and bypass, because by resetting it, you cancel all the memory. So all the users enrolled there, so saved into the memory with their hand templates and PIN codes, get deleted. It gets reset, so the first user is passwordless, is hand template-less, and anyone can enroll himself as a new admin. So this is the first problem. The second problem is that you create sort of denial of service. And the other point of having access to the reader itself is that, as you can see there, let me see if I can see my mouse here, is the fact that there is a pin that controls a relay, an external relay. So to speak, to make it simple, with this controller you can open electronic locks. So if you put to ground that pin with an attach, like this one from MacGyver style, you can literally open the device. So you have a master key of $6, and you have an attach here. As soon as you have physical access to this device, it's practically game over. So now there is the target connected to a door, electronic lock, electronic lock. And that's the famous master key that can open multiple of them. So not just this one, but every one of these kind of products from this manufacturer, of course. And now with a simple paperclip, by shorting the right pin to ground, the door it opens. So it's that easy as that. But of course, it's a physical access. You need still physical access to and some time to open and click. But considering the type of device, physical access control system, this is already a bad thing. Next. So now we prove that from physical security point of view, this physical access control system is a failure. Let's look from biometrical point of view. How secure or how strict is this sensor? So first of all, I tried with silly ideas. Let's try with some hands. Of course, as a control hand, I enrolled my hand in the system. And then I tried with any fake hand I found around. I tried with, like Halloween style silicone hands, like, I don't know, beauty salon, training hands, silhouettes of my hand, scanned and printed just to see, from different levels if it was getting better and better. Eventually, luckily, it failed. So I wanted to step it up even further. So I thought, OK, let's try to scan my hand. The best approach would be to use a laser-based scanner, but I didn't have at that time. So I tried a get-to-style approach. So eventually, I figured out that there is this mobile app on iOS called TRNIO, 3D scanner. So what I did is I took my control hand, because still it was a research, so it was not, we always need to differentiate between, applied research and application on the field like a red teamer. So in this case, this test was kind of successful, but is not replicable by a red teamer, because we will see later why. So the idea is I scan the hand, I make a lot of photos of the target hand, I make videos. Then this mobile application, it gathers all these media, photos and videos, and try to reconstruct as close as possible the hand of the target, the control hand. So then, with the 3D version of my hand acquired in this way, I 3D printed it in scale 101, then created a negative version with some compound, liquid that then becomes solid. Then I extracted it, and then I created a silicone version of it. Because when you place the hand, when you roll the hand or try to authenticate your hand, you need to move the fingers. So a 3D printed version, unless it's PETG, which is flexible filament, but still was not enough. I needed something even more flexible, like silicone. So that's why I created that silicone version. Anyway, long story short, in pure style of Mythbusters, I tried 50 times to try to log in with this fake hand, but only 2 times out of 50 succeeded. So if we look from a doability point of view, it's doable, but only on a lab, inside a lab. Because in real life, you will need either a very good series of photos and videos, high quality, to acquire the target hand structure, or you will need some laser or some technology that I didn't have at that time. So in theory, it's possible. You just need a better way to acquire high quality either videos or photos, images. So in theory, it's possible. Maybe some advanced threat actor can do that. In real life, a person in a home lab cannot do that, but it's doable. So 2 out of 50 is still acceptable from scientific point of view to say that it's possible to conduct this kind of attack. Just as an experiment, I wanted to see how precise I need to be to bypass the sensor with a better, higher success rate. So I did another approach. I put my hand inside that compound that created a negative version of my hand. In this case, it's not doable outside the lab, home lab, or outside an applied security research, because the culprit here, the problem here is that you need to stay still for 2 minutes. So unless you use some karate move and knock out for 2 minutes the victim, and then you put his hands like stable for 2 minutes. So this is not doable as a pen test, unless as I said, you want to knock out the target. But from a lab perspective, it's working. So here I created the copy 101 in silicon of my hand, and then eventually the sensor was not so smart or not so strict enough to reject me, or better, to reject my fake hand. So in this case, I tried to log in with the real hand on the user, not sure what was, 1337 is my PIN code. And then I used my hand and I logged in. And now I will try to use the fake hand to see if it's good enough, close enough to my real hand. And eventually, it worked. So in this case, in this scenario, if you have 2 minutes, as a real threat actor, if you have 2 minutes of the victim's life to stand still, you can succeed. Otherwise, you can succeed just on a lab, of course. But from a scientific point of view, it proves that this sensor is a no-go for protecting critical assets, because it's completely clonable or bypassable. So now that we proved also that the biometric sensor or acquisition system is a failure, I thought, okay, it has an Ethernet port, so it connects to somewhere, right? Since I bought it used, I didn't have any CD or any installation package or manual, so I had to go kind of blind. So then, eventually, by doing, what happened? Okay. By doing some initial recon network scanning, I figured out that there was this port open, 3001. So then I started to do some OSINT on internet, and eventually, okay, meantime, once discovered the port was open, I tried to fuzz it. Very simple, like netcat, IP, that port, and then pushing dev random, so junk, on that port to see how it was reacting, but nothing. It was completely unresponsive. So the next step was to look around, because, of course, maybe there are some good information around the internet. And eventually I found this software. This software apparently is used to control remotely and to pull logs, entrance logs from these devices. So it's supposed to be used in a LAN. Doc alarm, 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 doc alarms. These devices are usually installed inside a corporate LAN and eventually isolated with VLANs from other segments of the corporate network, because they just need to communicate between the security guard or whoever is the supervisor, entrance supervisor, PC or server, and controllers, nothing more. They don't need internet exposure. So eventually I installed this free edition of this software and tried to communicate with these devices, with these hand punches. Long story short, what you do when you have this kind of test in black box? Wireshark and TCP dump, so network analysis and reverse engineering. So I started to generate, pressing around random buttons in this software, setting the right IP and the right port of the targets, and then started to sniff and see, packets and see if I can find some logic behind that. And eventually, I started to see something interesting. Like, for example, the first packets, so PC is my computer, personal computer, HP is the hand punch. So the red communication is like the packet sent from my computer installed with that software installed to the hand punch. And in blue, vice versa, the reply. So what I noticed first is that first packet, FF0A, 0044 and so on and so forth, was the magic packet. If you send that packet through TCP on that port 3001, the target will turn on from network point of view. So it will turn on and start to be more talkative. So you send that first magic packet, and then immediately after you send another packet that looks like something like, who are you? Or hi, what's your name? and then the hand punch will reply, hi, I am HP4C312 magstripe. So that's which actually while sniffing, I figured out that was matching exactly what was shown on the screen of the device once it boots. So I connected the dots and I thought, oh, okay, maybe this packet is like something like, who are you? But the most important was the first packet, the magic packet or wake up packet. Not sure how they call it, but for me it's a wake up packet, because if you change just a little byte on that initial packet that you send to the hand punch will not answer you. So it must be a very specific packet. So after that, I continue my analysis, practical, empirical analysis. So I was doing some actions through that software, sniffing, and trying to figure out, reconstruct what was happening. So here, for example, I created a new user called hacker with the PIN code or user ID, which was 666. And then I went to look on Wireshark if I was seeing something matching. And apparently, as you can see there is the 666 and the hacker in plain text. What it means? Well, it means many things. First of all, plain text protocol. It's not a classic, anything known serialized protocol, so it's a doc. There is apparently no session. And we see in the next slide what came next. So now here is the full walkthrough to enroll a new user. So in theory, as I said before, on physical access of this device, the superadmin needs to enter his password, log in with the hand, then you get a special menu, like superadmin menu, and there is an option like create new user. If you press that, we'll ask you for a new ID code, then you can write like, I don't know, 555, and then we'll ask you to place the future user hand 3 times. So 1, scan, then we do some beep, then scan twice, and the 3rd time. And then after that, it will store the hand template of the new user inside the memory of the device. But if you initiate this process, which is called enrollment or hand enrollment process, remotely through the software installed on the security guard PC, it will start to send back and forth some data. So first of all, you write on the software the new user, like user ID 666, and then the name, and then you press and you send to the hand punch some packets, including the request to initiate the hand scan, which is in violet down in the slide. Then after some pooling packets, it waits for the scan to finish 3 times. Then once the 3 scans are finished, the device, the hand punch, it calculates the hash, the hand templates, and send it back in plain text to the PC. So in theory, an attacker could have the similar scenario as I did. Now I know the exact 9 bytes of my hand template, which is somewhere there actually, if you're curious. So the idea is that now I know exactly how approximately work the enrollment process, and I can try to attempt the same if I'm the same local area network, right? So eventually, by putting all together, we see that there is a lack of authentication, a lack of session handling, and a weak integrity routine, because by doing some reverse engineering and calculation and math, eventually I figured out that the CRC, well, the integrity check at the end is a CRC, exactly is the CRC 16X modem version. So now I can generate, I cannot just, because there is no authentication and no encryption. So now it's already vulnerable by definition to replay attacks. So the packets already generated by the system, server, and client can be replayed at any time and will work. But now that I know which kind of integrity is used, algorithm, the CRC 16X modem, I can generate my own packets. So then you can inject, if you're in the same local area network, you can inject packets and do other bad stuff. The thing is that we will see in the next slide. So first of all, out of all this information, now I built a scanner to scan a local area network, right? But it works also on internet. We'll see that later on. So now we have a scanner called HandScan that I will release on GitHub that, this one. That it is like an Nmap plugin, practically. I didn't port to Nmap yet. Probably I will push to their repo the right plugin. But the idea is that it has the protocol. I wrote the protocol stack to communicate and interpret the answers from the hand punches. So now, if you have a LAN, you can just launch this tool and script, and it will figure out if there are and which type of hand punches are there. So as simple as that. Then I I wanted to push a new sort of admin vector, I call it. It is a super admin account that the real users are not aware of and gives me admin access and, of course, allows me to open doors. So the first one is the first type, because there are two modes, default mode and known mode. The default mode is just a replication, is using the same idea of classic enrollment. But I'm doing that as an admin. So instead of enrolling a new user as a simple user, I'm enrolling it as an admin. So the idea is that I send a bunch of packets. I just need to know the IP of the target and the port, which is the default, by default, the 3001. And many are using still that port. So I just need, at the end, I just need to know the IP of the target, which we know through the hand scan tool. So I run this script, and what he will do is just will trigger a new enrollment. It already says, creates a new user 666 named hacker, and please enroll 3 times your hand. So this is still acceptable. However, you need to insert 3 times your hand at the beginning. So imagine in a real case scenario, a pentester or red teamer comes out of the building with this kind of reader and knows the IP of this device. He needs to do physically 3 times, the enrollment. So if there is a camera or a security guard there and you do 3 times, it's kind of suspicious. But anyway, that was the first type. So it's still a problem. And here is the example. So now I try to show you that the user 666 is not there yet. As you can see, I'm not even putting my hand because it beeps and says there is not that user. And now I run the script against the IP of that device. And now I just need to enroll 3 times. So now I am telling to the hand punch that I want to create a new admin user with admin permissions and user ID 666. And now I was enrolling 3 times my hand. The hand template was generated, was sent back to myself. As you can see, it's published there on the screen. And now if I do 666 and then put my hand, the door opens. So I just created a sort of super admin backdoor user out there. And of course, the security guard is not aware that a new super admin was created. So yeah, just another counterproof. It opens. So this is nice. It's already a critical problem, but is not, can be done something more. What I noticed is that while reverse engineering the stack, the protocol, I noticed that there is a sort of protocol, yet another protocol issue. So in idea, if you know your hand template of your hand, you don't need to enroll 3 times. You just need to tell to the hand punch, please, sorry, let me pause. Then I will explain. You will see the video. So first I will explain. So I figured out that if you know the hand template, the 9 bytes data of your hand hash, you can just initiate a new enrollment. So tell to the hand punch, hi, I want to enroll a new super admin user with ID 666. This is the hand template, trust me. And the controller said, yes, sir, I will not ask you for 3 times the hand. So this time, in this case, if you have a protected area asset with that remote, that hand punch, and you know the IP of that hand punch, you can literally walk by with your phone connected to the same LAN, send these 2 packets, you will see, and then it will do all the magic, and practically we install a new super admin user in that hand punch with my hand already hand hash pre-calculated. So then it's literally like you walk by, while walking, you send the packet, and then you arrive at the right time. It took like 2 seconds, and then it's stored already there in my hand. So I just need like a simple user, code, hand, and you enter. So this one is very nice from red teaming point of view. So the user didn't exist at that time. So now I just building up the command to issue. So now instead of using the default mode, I'm using the known mode, which is, as I said, the known mode. Well, in this case, as a POC, I hard-coded my hash instead the Python script. Otherwise, you need to pre-calculate the hash of your hand and attach as an argument. But the idea is that, as I said, you just walk by, 2 seconds. Now, in this case, there is a new user called with ID 666, and now my hand will work, and boom, it's open. Again, luckily for us, we don't have this kind of readers in Italy, so no big problems for Xir. But there are other places in the world that till now, and we'll see in the next slide why I'm quite worried. And that's why I didn't release yet the tools, because, yeah, it's going to be fun. So another, not tool, another command I added to HandPwning is the ability to dump other users' IDs or PIN codes. Because sometimes, ever heard about password reusal? Well, sometimes they may reuse the same PIN code for other types of access control systems. So I thought, let's implement that as well, in a way that we pull all this data from the controller and steal all the user IDs or PIN codes. And also names. You can even store names. So we'll see later in real case scenario, there are some of these exposed on the internet with real names. So GDPR, have fun. So this, it passed already couple of years since I started notifying these as responsible disclosure. And why I didn't make a lot of fuss publicly about that is because exactly, if you go now, if you have internet, sadly I don't have Wi-Fi, I don't want to connect to any Wi-Fi here. But if you have your own internet, if you go to Shodan.io, I think, if you go to Shodan, a nice thing here is that the manufacturer, the vendor, when I notified them all these vulnerabilities, they decided to not create a patch, but to put the line out of end of life. And they notified the customers that is on end of life, that's critical vulnerabilities, and they should replace with a new secure device. And it's their decision. I will not discuss that. The point is that I told them, when they notified me about this, I told them I'm going to present this and inform, people that may be impacted. And they said, okay. And they said, which are the mitigation you suggest? Well, put a camera in front of our device. I said, well, that's smart. Yeah, good. And what else? Do not expose on the internet. Okay. And I said, are you sure they are not exposed on the internet? I said, yeah, who will expose that on the internet? It's used for just a physical access control system on an industrial site. No one will expose it. After that, I decided to do one thing. I could have started a scanner, massive scanner of internet, but we have Shodan, right? So I asked John, and here I would like to say thanks to John because he had the patience to read my my ugly protocol stack I implemented in Python to re-implement in Shodan probes. But the idea is that, long story short, even now, if you go on Shodan, you don't need even to log in. Just go on Shodan, on the search bar, write handpunch, enter, and there should be still, let me check. As of today, there are 1,280 hand punches protecting assets around the world, completely exposed on the internet. For obvious reason, I will not make live proof of concepts against those, but you can imagine the impact of, as I was saying, the nice thing for us, at least in Italy, is that the most impacted countries here, according to Shodan, are Ireland, United States, Canada, United Kingdom, and Hong Kong. So yeah, but the point is that it must be fixed. As you can see here, we could start another 2 hours discussion. Probably in the round table we will take care about some of these topics. But the point is that not only the problem of having or finding vulnerabilities critical are a thing, but the problem comes later when you notify some vendors and they do not respond properly, or even they inform the customer some way and then the customer doesn't take the proper actions. So right now there are more than 1,000 of these protecting God knows which assets from different levels, and they are available to anyone to be compromised. So yeah, let's hope things will get better. Here is another case. Of course, I redacted the IP for protecting myself from being harassed by illegals. But the idea is that there was this IP facing internet, this hand punch facing internet with more than 10,000 users enrolled in there. I don't know which kind of company factory has this kind of needs of user. And exactly this IP was, or probably another, but similar vulnerable hand punch had not only just PIN codes in the system stored and facing internet, but also names and surnames. In there, I tried to contact one of those employees I found on LinkedIn, but the guy didn't take it. I mean, he got scared and never replied to me and blocked me. So, well, I didn't want to scare him. I just told him, can you please give me a name of your SOC or CERT or whatever security response, and disappeared. So, yeah, let it be. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the presentation. 2 reminders, pro tips for whoever does pen test or these kind of researches. First thing, before starting to pop open and try to clone or do reverse engineering and spend hours in reverse engineering an unknown protocol, while I was writing the paper for these slides and talk, in the paper there is probably will be published later on the website. It's a bit more comprehensive. There are more details on that. So while I was writing the paper, I was checking one of their original website of this company, and eventually I figured out there was a directory listing with manuals, and among manuals there was also the protocol specifications. So in there, at the end of my research, I got confirmation that my assumptions were right. The wake-up packet I was calling, they were calling something else, but the idea was exactly the same because, the proof was, my approach was empirical. Trigger, do some action, sniff, and see, make the logic connection between packets and bytes and what happened there. So here I just got confirmation. So before starting attempting network-related reverse engineering or radio-related reverse engineering, do check FCC or other means because it may spare a lot of your time. And the second thing funny is that in the manual, the one I was looking for and why I found the directory listing before mentioned, is that in the manual they mentioned that there is a super password to protect some features. The funny thing is that in reality, and I tried all different models, that password, there is no menu to insert that password. So I even asked them when I reported vulnerability, where is the password? But no one was ever able to reply to me. So just, fun thing that sometimes in the manuals you can find, things that might be interesting. In this case, it was a kind of failure because it didn't lead me to anything interesting. But sometimes manual can be, even the older version can be useful. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Prova. Thank you, Luca. So, questions? Yes.
So we saw let's put aside the software vulnerability and let's turn back to the physical part.
Yes.
Like we saw that you basically clone your hand with silicon, right?
Yeah.
And wouldn't it be enough to patch this kind of physical vulnerability, but not only with a hand sensor, but for example, for a fingerprint sensor to implement a heat sensor that you can understand if there is a silicon or a real hand there?
Yeah. It's the same. It's kind of the same concept of hand vein technology, because the hand vein technology is not looking at the surface, but it looks through IR, infrared camera at the vein. So the minutiae is there. So the unique points that use the sensor to calculate the hash, the hand template. In that case, is the vein. So it uses, and then you can apply also thermal imaging. So with thermal imaging, there are also in fingerprints. Actually, if we take fingerprints technology, there are the silly vulnerable ones that you can bypass with the silicon, or you can bypass with graphite and glue. It was done a few years ago by CCC guys with the iPhone, one of the first iPhone with fingerprint. So they scanned the fingerprint, then etched on the PCB, the copper trace on the layer on the PCB, so it was etched in negative, and then they use wooden glue, the white wooden glue mixed with graphite to create back the positive. And there bypass the capacitive fingerprint. What you're saying is correct. There are already a lot of readers that are using already in fingerprint, for example, thermal. So this is another way to, or even worse, or depends point of view, or even better, they're even checking for the pulsation. So like, for example, in some military-grade fingerprint sensors or iris retina sensors, they can detect, as I showed in the previous slides. Can you put back the slides? Thank you. Okay. So as you can see in the first animated GIF, there was, one second. Coming there, coming, almost there. Okay, okay. No? Yes. So here, so in that case, in the first top left, they are using, in that case, they literally use the knocked out victim with the hand attached. So in that case, your thermal and pulsations improvements wouldn't work because it's just, But of course, it's quite unpractical because you need to knock out the victim or have the full victim. The second approach would be the guy with the hand chopped. In that case, you can chop the hand at the pub, take the hand on a plastic bag with ice, and go to the sensor of the super secret, secure, safe vault. There would work, well, it depends, the thermal, no, that would be preventing this kind of attack. Then there is also pulsation. In that case, the hand was chopped off, so there is no more pulsation. So this kind of system there are. I'm not aware of this kind of improvement on this kind of technology.